Howdy, roofers, and welcome to Roofer Growth Hacks, a podcast that's dedicated to highlighting those in the roofing industry, learning how they overcame growth challenges with creative growth hacks, and connecting them with others in the roofing industry. I'm your host, Chris Hunter, founder and chief marketing officer of roofingsites.com. I'm also the author of the Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. Got a little story for you, roofers. One of the biggest challenges that roofing companies face today is attaining and retaining employees that help your business grow and help you achieve your goals. Today's guest, Ryan Englin, is passionate about helping business owners hire better people faster. In fact, that's the name of his best-selling book. So be sure to listen up as Ryan shares some really awesome growth hacks.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to get to talk with you and just kind of learn your wisdom. I guess I just want to kick us off by asking, why did you and Jeremy write Hire Better People Faster? What's the reason? Why did we need to get this message out right now?
For anyone that knows us, you know that Jeremy and I are both incredibly passionate about the trades, about blue collar companies, hardworking men and women that go out there to make a difference in our lives every single day. They've been challenged with labor issues. There's been a challenge with the fact that there aren't a lot of people coming into the industry. And, you know, I grew up in the trades. I know Jeremy did as well. In my world, I'd watch my dad go work 6 days a week, 7 days a week, sometimes 12, 15-hour days, and just grind it out to support his family, to take care of us, to make a difference. And as I got older, I realized that the problem wasn't that my dad didn't know how to run a business or he wasn't a good entrepreneur, and it wasn't even that people didn't like working for him, because he had very loyal employees. He just never had enough of them. And what it really came down to is no one ever taught people like my dad how to do this. Like, there's all these books written about when you're a Silicon Valley startup and you can have nap pods and ping pong tables and cereal bars. Like, that's how you attract and retain people. But the reality is, in the blue collar space, that doesn't work. And no one ever taught him how to do it. And there was never a book, there was never training, there was never schooling about this. And he was never big enough that he could hire someone to do it for him. He was just always grinding. And so as I got older and realized that this is something I'm incredibly passionate about, is helping these hardworking men and women, these entrepreneurs, with growing their business and owning a business versus a business owning them. And most of the time, the shift is hiring people you can trust. So we sat down to write this book because there are so many of those entrepreneurs that feel stuck or trapped by their business because they can't find good people. And then you layer on top of that an industry that is convinced there's a labor shortage and no one wants to do it. That's why I wrote the book, was to help them say, you can overcome this. This is a problem that can be solved. And we have tons of case studies showing that it can be done.
So I'm hearing one of the myths right off the bat that you break is that there are people out there that want to work, that want to be fulfilled in their profession. We're just not finding them.
This is not going to be a popular opinion, but there's no labor shortage. In the trades, there's no labor shortage. It's a myth. It's perpetuated by the fact that it's easier to play the victim than it is to take ownership. But if anybody doesn't believe me, anybody listen to this, just go to your HR team or go to your accounting team and say, how many W-2s did we issue last year? And then say, how many people did we have on payroll at the end of the year? And for some of you, you're going to do that, and it's going to be 2 or 3 times the number of W-2s issued that you had. There's no hiring issue in the trades. There's a retention issue in the trades. And that's what we need to solve. Now, we solve it through better hiring. Like, there's a bunch of ways we solve it, but we don't have a hiring issue in the trades. We have a retention issue. And if you don't believe me, go do that math. And some of you won't do the math because it's going to sicken you to know how many W-2s you issued and how many people you burned through last year. So, and we see it over and over and over again. And it doesn't even matter what sector of the trades you're in. It's an issue.
And that costs money, you know, when you burn through employees, right? I mean, that costs so much money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that 100%, you know.
And what's it do to the morale, which impacts productivity? Like, forget the cost of that employee that you churned. What about the people that are sitting there watching it happen?
Yeah. And culture and community and all of that stuff that everyone talks about, right? That a successful company needs to have. It just destroys that when you have good employees leave, right? Or any employees come in and leave. Yeah. So Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and You said you grew up in the trades, but what do you do? What tell us a little bit about Core Matters and about yourself.
Yeah. So to share with a little bit about my story. Well, I did like any good son, and I told my dad I'm not going in the family business because I don't want what you got. So I did what society's telling us to do now: go to college, get a degree, go work for corporate. And to me, it didn't make sense. I did it because that's what I was told to do. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. So I got out. I did the corporate stint for about a decade, and the one thing corporate did for me was it gave me a love for process, gave me a love for systems. And I realized that the difference between a small business and an enterprise business, the only difference is that the enterprise business has systems and processes in place. The things that make them enterprise are the same things that a lot of people leave enterprise for because they don't want the handcuffs. They don't want to feel like they're stuck. They want to be able to freewheel and figure it out on their own. Well, that's the exact thing that keeps small businesses small. And so I left and I started a marketing company because I thought, my belief was the reason my dad never was able to get out of the business and hire more people was because he didn't have enough business. If he only had more business, cash solves a lot of problems.
It does.
So I started a marketing.
It covers a lot of problems, a lot of sins.
So I started a marketing company and I worked with contractors for about 4 or 5 years. And we did lead gen, we did websites, we did email, we did all the traditional stuff to help people in a digital age get more business. And it was early 2015, I started having a bunch of clients just saying, I don't need more leads. I don't need more leads. I don't need more leads. And I'm like, great. That means I'm losing a client. Yeah. And the issue when I actually started looking into solving it wasn't that the business was going and it was on autopilot and everything else. It was, I'm a home service contractor, HVAC contractor in Phoenix in July. So do the math here. Mm-hmm. They were booking 3 weeks out. If my AC's out, I ain't waiting 3 weeks.
No.
And they said, we've got 4 trucks sitting in the yard. We can't put techs in. We don't know how to get techs. And if we had techs, we could take more leads. I like to solve problems. So I said, hey, let me take my love of process and the fact that I used to build teams and interview and hire and all that. Let me take all of that and apply it to this problem. Because the reality is, if you're struggling to recruit people, you have a marketing problem, not an HR problem, not a people problem. You have a marketing problem. I owned a marketing company. So I set out and I did this. 3 weeks later, they call me and they say, we hired 4 techs. We got 2 more trucks on order. Turn the leads back on. And I'm like, whew, dodged a bullet. Dodged a bullet. Well, then I had another client call me and cancel. And I was like, well, let me get you some techs. And a couple of these happened and it was so much fun and it was so different. And I was able to watch them just transform their businesses because now they knew how to hire. That I set out to say, okay, now how do we help them keep them? Because that was the next problem. They were hiring all these guys and they were just leaving. And so over time, we built the CoreFit hiring system and developed tools and processes and systems around it. And then eventually last year, finally codified it and put it in a book.
Okay. So can you break down the CoreFit hiring system for us?
Absolutely. So it's no accident that the word core shows up in a lot of what we do. Core Matters, CoreFit hiring system, CoreFit. And what I realized was that the one thing that makes it so difficult for blue collar companies to recruit is that most of the time they're never clear on what their core is. Now, a lot of you might think culture. Well, culture is an element of your core, but the core is the sum of your behaviors, your leadership styles, your communication, all the things that a lot of people say make up culture. But that core is so important to everything else that you do. If we're not clear on what our core is and we don't know how to communicate it externally in a way that people are receptive and understand, and we're not communicating it to the right people, we're going to struggle to recruit. And that is one of the primary elements of the system, is getting really clear on what your core is and how you communicate it.
So how do you do that? How do you help a company, let's say a roofing company, right, figure out what that is?
Well, that was the hardest chapter in the book to write, because I could have written a whole book just on that.
Yeah.
But what it really comes down to is your core vision and your core story. And when I say core vision, the core vision is a sum of the way you behave, why you do what you do as an organization, why roofing. I meet entrepreneurs all the time. I'm like, you can go make money a whole bunch of easier ways than being a roofer, but you chose roofing for a reason. Why roofing? And then finally, where's your company going? We've all heard the metaphor, getting the right people on the bus. Well, is your bus going around in circles? Is it heading to the mountaintop? Are we going to the beach? Like, where's this metaphorical bus going? And 9 times out of 10, people don't know. So they're sitting there with a sign saying, get on my bus. And people are like, well, where's the bus going? It's been on that same street corner for the last 6 months. And they want to get on a bus that's taking them somewhere. And if that somewhere aligns with where they personally want to go, you win. So that's the first part, is getting really clear on those. But then how do you communicate that in a way that's super clear and super effective? And that's the core story. And so really turning that into a story that you can teach your people how to share. And that's where the value of the core really becomes prominent, and you're starting able to get a return on that effort. Now, there's another side of it. You have to live that way. If you tell people you behave a certain way, you better behave a certain way. And so there's a lot of authenticity that goes into that. But that's how you get really clear on what your core is.
But Ryan, nowhere in that at all did you talk about, hey, here's my benefits package. Here's how much I pay. Here's, okay, blue collar, you don't get knot pods, but there's other benefits. None of that was in what you just said. So what that is, what really?
Yeah. Here's the reality. 9% of people leave for more pay, 9%. And usually it's because there's a life event that required it. Spouse got sick, can't work. Just found out we're having twins, got to buy a different house. I got to buy a brand new car because the car I have isn't going to fit the family I now have, right? Usually a life event dictates that they need to make more money. And if you as the employer haven't shown them a career path to allow them to do it, they're going to go look for someone that will. Because the reality is looking for work sucks. Anybody that's done it recently knows it sucks. You get ghosted by employers. They lie to you. They waste your time. They don't tell you the truth. Like they just don't say anything. And it sucks to think that I'm going to put myself out there and take this leap to go work for someone that I don't even know if I can trust. It sucks. Most people aren't going to volunteer to go look for work. It's one of those things that I'm not going to do. And in blue collar, what happens when your boss finds out that you're looking for work?
You're really looking for work.
Yeah, you take whatever you can get now because rent's due and you don't have a job anymore. And so the things around pay and benefits, stuff's important. Like people need to be able to pay their bills. But at the end of the day, if you help people feel like they belong and you help give them the things that are important to them personally, like friends, and I got to be careful how I use this term, but like a work-life balance, like personal training and development. One of the things we're seeing happen a lot in the blue collar space, which is amazing. A lot of companies in the blue collar space, they pay weekly. Do you know why they do weekly paychecks?
Because I don't have any money by Friday.
Because the people that take these kind of jobs just don't know how to budget. They were never taught how to manage money, is a reality. And so if it's in the checking account, they pay it. And they know that on Monday, it costs me this to live. And on Tuesday, it costs me this. But to say I need 2 Mondays worth of money, they just don't take the time to do that. And not to insult that group of people, because I love that group of people. No one ever taught them how to manage money. So one of the things we see a lot of companies do now in training and personal growth is they bring in a program like Dave Ramsey's Smart Dollar or Financial Peace University, and they teach people how to budget and pay off debt and save. When does an employer ever do that?
Yeah, never.
Because they're like, that's not my job.
Yeah.
It's not my job. But it is now.
But the implications of that, just from a CFO administrative standpoint, so you're telling me I can cut the amount of time my staff processes payroll in half by going to bi-weekly payroll just because I've trained my people? I mean, that means the amount of times I've got to pay for ACH fees or check fees or processing fees in half? Just because I can do that?
And just
you mean we only have to mess up payroll twice a month instead of 4 times a month?
That's right.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that transition doesn't happen overnight, but over a year or two, you can see that transition happen. And benefits, I don't know anybody that has benefits right now. Benefits suck. The benefits just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So it's crazy. You know what's a benefit though that a lot of people don't give? Paid time off. They purport to say that they are family driven and that they want people to have work-life balance and everything else, but then they give them mandatory overtime and they never give them a day off.
Yeah.
And so we see that happen, that we're starting to see that more and more now. We had a client 5 years ago that started working with us. I mean, this is pre-pandemic. You had to be there 5 years to get a week of paid time off.
Wow.
And their belief was, well, the average person's only with us for 3.5, so we never have to do paid time off. It works out. And I was like, yeah. I just see Chris roll his eyes. I'm like, yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now they do a week after a year, which is much more reasonable. And they also have incentive programs where you can earn more overtime throughout the year. And so it's making these shifts to understanding what people really value. People don't value the paycheck like they used to. There's a joke for the younger generation that a lot of times they'll call in sick on Monday. And well, it all depends. Did they spend all their money on the weekend partying, or do they still have some left to get through Monday? Right. And it's just, we tease them, but that's the reality. If they have enough money to live through Monday and Tuesday, they'll come back to work on Wednesday, which is why the gig economy is so popular now.
I've got to kind of dig in on some of this stuff. What would you say, right? Because your system is more about, building the company into something a little bit different, it sounds like, than what it actually starts out as when they come to you. What's the one thing besides the core vision and all of that really starts getting people to say, aha, I could build this and recruit, but attract people?
Yeah. So the big issue I told you was retention. We don't want to admit it's retention. We want to blame it on a shortage. We want to blame it on the job market. But the real issue is retention. Now, you solve most of your retention problems when you hire people that align to your core. When you hire people that thrive in an environment because of the way you behave, that thrive in an environment because of where you are taking them. But what do we mostly do now? We cast a wide net, and if they call us back or they show up for the interview, they're hired. We do nothing to qualify. Are they the right fit for us? We had a client, this years ago. Don't judge me on this one. They were 5 guys, all went to high school together. They operated, this is a big company, 9-figure a year company. And they operated it like a fraternity. And there were cliques beyond cliques, and there were parties, and there were things said behind people's back, and there was passive aggressiveness and hazing and razzing each other and all this. And it was toxic, in my opinion. But I also realized that there are some people that will thrive in that kind of environment, right? We think about the earth, and there are events, volcanic events, 5 miles below the surface of the ocean, 700-degree water coming out of these vents, and they've found life there. So if that happens in nature, we can make that happen in our companies as well. And I went to him and I said, let me write a different type of job ad for you. One that describes you as more of a frat bros kind of environment and this passive aggressive nature that you're so proud of and will never change. And I handed it to the procurement director and he read it and he goes, this sounds like an awesome place to work. Because I didn't tell him it was for that. I was like, hey, I've got this thing I want you to read. Tell me what you think. He's like, this sounds amazing. He's like, this sounds so much fun. I said, that's good because that's where you work. And he's like, oh, I got to show this to the rest of the guys. Like, he was proud of it. And so the big issue they had was in the sales team, remote workforce, and they're out all the time. Turnover was ridiculous. Performance numbers were down. Shows it to the sales director. He's loving this thing. So they put it out there. Attracts a completely different type of salesperson. Someone that they would have never given any thought to before. 6 weeks later, they hire a couple of these guys. Morale's up. Sales are up. Customers are more happy. Like, they couldn't believe it because you hired someone that thrived in your environment. And as soon as we do that, now they come to me and they say, okay, how do we keep these guys? Because I don't know how to do that now because it's a different kind of person. But, hiring people that are going to thrive in the environment you've already created is so critical to this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Ryan, you talk about it and you've kind of hinted at it a couple times. And I know I've heard you say before that hiring somebody, that's not a HR function, it's a marketing function. And I love that example that you said, okay, it's truly about crafting the employment ad for who you want to attract, just like a good marketer crafts their advertisement, their customer ad to attract their perfect customer. So how do you, that seems like a lot of, that seems like a whole lot of work. Ryan, I need 7 people right now. I've got 4 trucks sitting in my yard that are doing nothing, that are costing me money because I got to make loan payments on them instead of making me money, which is why I bought them. I can't spend all this time crafting this perfect marketing story song to my future employees. I need a Bubba right now.
I get it. Which is why when someone starts with us, within 10 days, we're bringing in those people. Like, we've built the system. So, we know how to do that quick. But here's the thing you need to remember. And you've both probably heard this. You've all heard this saying: people don't leave jobs, they leave
managers,
people. Bosses, managers, leaders. And every time I've ever started that, everybody knows how to finish that saying. So the question is, do we believe that to be true? If we believe that's true, your old typical job ad is going to keep getting you the same results it's always gotten you.
Well, Ryan, it's true for everybody else, but I'm an awesome manager. I'm an awesome leader. They don't leave me.
And you know what? The thing is, most companies out there do have amazing stories and amazing people working for them. The problem is they don't know how to get credit for it. And if we believe that people leave bosses, then our job ads and what we post online and what we say about ourselves should have nothing to do with the fact that that you got to be able to lift 50 pounds. You got to be able to use this software or fix this type of equipment. It needs to be, this is the kind of person you're going to work for. This is the kind of company you're going to be a part of.
Yeah. And it's so true, right? And it's one thing that we've heard from entrepreneurs over and over and over and over again is that, if you're working for something that's bigger than you, right, then that's how they got successful, and they attract the right people into the right seats for their business, and I 100% agree with that.
It's one of those situations where common sense isn't all that common. We've heard that before. But it's like when I say this stuff, people are like, well, duh. I have this slide that I share in my workshops where I talk about why we call it an ad versus a job description. I have a commercial of a 2023 Z06 Corvette. It's a 60-second commercial. And it is, you hear the sound of the road, you hear the sound of the engine, you see people smiling, you see the G-force in the car, you see the leather, you see the attention to detail. You know what they don't talk about is the specs. You know what they don't talk about is the maintenance schedule. You know what they don't talk about is the price. And then my next slide, and people are like, oh my gosh, I want one of those. It's a $170,000 car. And then the next slide is a picture of the window sticker. And I go, which one do your job ads look like? And which one do you think sells more Corvettes? You know how hard it is to find a window sticker online, a picture of a window sticker? GM doesn't put them out there. I had to scrape one off someone's Instagram because they were like,
I was going to say, you're Ryan driving up to the Chevy dealership, just snapping pictures.
Because they know that people aren't going to buy that car when they look at the window sticker first.
Sticker shock, right?
They buy the car because of the lifestyle and because of the way it's going to make them feel. It's an emotional decision. So is switching jobs. So we have to get people really connected with the kind of company they're going to be working for, the kind of boss that's going to be leading them, the kind of investment you're going to make in their personal life. And when you make that shift, all the rest of the stuff becomes so much easier.
So we're going to take a pause here to listen to a message from our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R roofing marketing system. If you're a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. So speaking of all of this, right, of how do we attract the right people, who's the best fit for you as a customer, as a client coming into Core Matters?
We've figured this out over the last few years. It's the people with a passion for the process. If you have a passion for a better process, if you want to build a better mousetrap, that's the right fit for us. That person's going to read this book and they're going to be just earmarking the whole thing because that's what it's about. You build the process because the reality is people aren't perfect. People make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so if you just trust winging it and your gut, you're going to make mistakes. So let's build a process that does this for you. And so for people that want the process, companies that want to scale, if you're the kind of company that says, hey, you know what, if I can just land at 30 employees or 100 employees and just stay there, you probably just need to look at more of your leadership, your communication, those kinds of things. Because finding people is not going to be the challenge. But if you're someone that says, I want to double the business in 3 years, and if I don't start hiring quality people that are going to stick around, it's going to be very expensive. So I'm willing to build a better mousetrap, put in a better process so that I can make that happen. Those are the right people. It's a mindset.
So Ryan, for someone who is passionate about the process, how do they get in touch with you? How do they work with you?
Yeah, corematters.com. Real simple. You can go there. You can check us out. You can learn about our process. I got a ton of educational stuff too. I've learned that because this is so different than what a lot of other people have heard or thought about before, I got to give them some stuff. So I've got free downloads. I've got all sorts of stuff. And if they buy a copy of the book, they can go to the website and they can download 12 templates and tools that we use in our program just for being a part of buying the book.
Love it. I'm going to go do that right now.
And it is on audiobook now. It is on audiobook. So for those of you thinking, oh, if they just listen to it, it is there. You got to listen to me though for 6 hours. But other than that,
double speed, right?
double speed. Yes. I have a very good 2X voice.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on to Aggie Growth Hacks. We really, really appreciate you coming and really sharing your knowledge with us here with the Aggie community.
Thank you.
Well, how about that, roofers? Was that pretty awesome or what? There were some super valuable hacks that Ryan shared with us. I have a few favorite takeaways here. The first one is we need to, and he said this, is that we need to attract employees like we attract our customers, right? And to me, what that means is that we've got to be able to write up, instead of just throwing job descriptions out there, we should be putting in marketing language, meaning that we're talking about our core values. We're talking about, really what is in it for them for that job. Okay. I think that's really important and really why anyone would want to work with you. Number two, and he said this over and over again, is that hiring isn't the issue. The real issue is retention. And he gave that great, story where he talked about the 18-year-old kid going out there to the job and shoveling. And, by the end of the day, the next day, he couldn't even get out of bed. Right. And he talked about how well they fixed that by simply easing that person into that job. And that's an important thing to even think about, right? Is easing people into the job instead of just throwing them head first, right? If we can retain employees, right, versus having to hire and hire and hire and hire and hire more and hire even more, what if we just simply retain them more and retain them longer? We can do that by sharing our employees, right, our core values and really ensuring that they're a good fit for our company instead of just going out there and hiring somebody. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Roofer Growth Hacks. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you connect with Ryan online. I also hope that you connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. We're all over the place. While you're out there, you can check out roofingsites.com. And while you're there, you can listen to any of our previous episodes on Roofer Growth Hacks. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R roofing marketing system. If you are a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Also, this past year, I published my book, The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. If you're a roofing company owner and you don't have this book in your hand, I will send it to you for free. Just go to go.roofingsites.com and I'll send you a free copy of my book. Well, roofers, join me next time when we connect with another great roofing entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter. Thanks and gig 'em.